In the previous episode, I sailed from Trinidad to Grenada and on to the hurricane-devastated island of Carriacou, which is part of Grenada. Here I continue north to St. Vincent and the island chain south of it, known as the Grenadines, starting with Union Island. In stark contrast to the antiquated paperwork required for checking into and out of Trinidad and Tobago, most of the other Caribbean islands use a modern and efficient electronic system called Sail Clear, where you enter the details of your boat and yourself and any crew once, then only need to enter your planned entry or departure port and date details for each country. This is the most efficient system I encountered in my round-the-world trip, although unfortunately the French islands insist on having their own, less convenient system. Furthermore, both Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines had entry and exit offices at either end of their island chains, making passages north or south convenient. I am voicing over this and the next clip as the wind noise is too much. In the foreground here is Sandy Island, where I spent a night earlier, with the main island of Carriacou behind it. We had decent wind even in the shadow of the island because it is not very high, and in front of us was Union Island, which was the goal for the day's sail. You can see that we are beating upwind, trying to sail as close to the wind as possible and heeled over pretty hard. This is wonderful sailing, albeit on an old boat like Sea Change with old sails. The best angle we can do to the wind is about 60 degrees, what most sailors would call a close reach. Once we cleared the northern end of Carriacou, the wind really filled in, but so did the current. So I triple reefed the main and turned on the engine so we could attempt to make it to Clifton Bay on the southern end of Union Island in one tack. Off to our starboard side were three smaller islands I would not visit: low-lying Palm Island, then Petit St. Vincent with a luxury resort on it, and finally Petit Martinique. Here is our track into the anchorage at Clifton, surrounded and well protected from the easterly trade winds by reef. Well, I'm in Clifton on Union Island, and this was on the north side of Hurricane Beryl. You can see back there to Carriacou, and it's going to be windy, but here's a hotel resort absolutely wiped out. Completely wiped. Looks like a hurricane hit like in Texas or Florida. Absolutely wiped out. Here's their jetty. And yeah, the cannon survived, but that's about it. You see the rest of the jetties are pretty wiped out as well. I did not feel comfortable filming, but it was really sad to see families still living in tents on the foreshore almost a year after Beryl. Barely visible on the left edge of this picture of the destroyed Anchorage Hotel. It's late afternoon. This is the reef that I'm anchored behind. There's a little bar restaurant here I'll go to tonight. Just to show you how close everything is. There's Tobago Keys, and there's Mairou on the other side there. Go to those two the next two nights. And then over here, Petit St. Vincent with its fancy resort. And over there, Petit Martinique. And back where I came from, there's Union Island. No, sorry, this is Union Island. There's Carriacou. And behind me in the sun, Union Island. We had regular squalls come through this anchorage and for the next few days, but after one of them I dinghied over to the restaurant on the reef for a pleasant, if expensive, dinner. As my anchor alarm shows, that night the wind veered from southeast to east, and the next morning, after yet another squall went through, this green schooner was lit up under a rainbow, as was the town of Clifton. Now there's Union Island behind us. And over here, Palm Island, Petit St. Vincent and St. Martinique, way behind Carriacou. And it's just just a 4-mile trip today, so we're doing it with just the jib and the engine, of course, because the wind is light, straight from the east. We're going northeast. We're headed to this little set of islands here, a very famous place called Tobago Cays. No, Keys. I always say that wrong. Tobago Keys. This is another big island, Maelu. I don't think I'm going to go there. I think next I go up north to Canaan. The Tobago Keys are a set of 4 small islands surrounded by reefs and considered to be one of the most picturesque anchorages in the Caribbean. And I anchored along with some other boats in the southeast corner behind the main eastern flanking reef. Just after I anchor, a little eagle ray come by. Very nice. Meanwhile, quite a few boats in the anchorage here, and more further around the other side. This is looking northeast. And then if we turn around into the wind, it's way in the different distance there's a lonely looking rock. And my chart says it's called Sail Rock. I'm not sure why. And over here is another island. There's actually, there's a catamaran real close to it. Wow, you're not allowed to anchor over there, so I'm not sure what that's about. Anyway, it's a gorgeous blue spot. Oh, it's Sunday the 11th, and just like yesterday and just like midnight last night, we have a squall incoming. And if I had the nerve I would go kiting, but you have absolutely no idea how strong it's going to be and how long it's going to last. And I have no way to launch here. I'm not supposed to launch off the beach over on the side that is the sides shore wind, because that's the turtle sanctuary. The catamaran dudes would launch off the back of their catamarans, but I can't do that. Anyway, this should be interesting. Hopefully I can collect some rainwater just like I did last night. Instead of kiting, I went snorkeling from my dinghy through a passage across the eastern flanking reef and at the little island to the southeast of it. However, like in Grenada and Carriacou, the spectacular coral reported by previous cruises had been damaged by Hurricane Beryl and was covered with brown algae that mostly supported algal feeders like tangs. The only excitement was some large barracudas patrolling the outside edge of the reef. Sunday, May 11th. Sat out a bunch of squalls this morning. I wish I had the nerve to kite in them, but boy, it's so up and down, it's crazy. And when you're on your own with nobody with a dinghy to come and get you, it's a little sketchy. Anyway, I'm headed off, going up to the next island north, Canoan, something like that. We're going to go around this little headland here and into a big bay. I had the sense we're going to get caught by the next big squall before we get there. It's 5 miles, take an hour, we'll see. Like many other Caribbean islands, Canoan has a large bay on the western side, making for a wonderfully sheltered anchorage. Oh, this is Charlestown and Charlestown Bay. Yeah, it's a nice little laid-back place. There's a bar here on the beach called the Coconut, and they have some big speakers. Music's not bad though. There's not a lot of other boats around. There's a big cat here and a couple of monos behind me. That's about it. It was really squally this morning, and then this afternoon it's cleared up quite nicely. Oh, that was a very quiet night here in Canoan, in Charlestown Bay, and this morning we've got a few little showers go over, but a lovely sunset. Look how the light is so different below and above the rainbow. It's so cool. And Yeah, this spectacular purple monohull here. I haven't met them, French group. They're a beautiful boat, goodness me. And that's about it. I'm gonna go in this morning, see if I can get some fruit, maybe a fish, and then head on north, as always. This is Charlestown, and this is the local school. Here's the primary, and then over here is the secondary school with a bunch of extra buildings as well. And the guy says there's 500 students. Here's their uniforms. And up on the hill, all the fancy houses all around. Most of them not too badly damaged by the beryl, but you can see some damage in places. But this place is far better shape than Union Island, Carriacou, and so on. This is one of several buildings I've seen. I believe this is accommodations. The others were markets, but it's based on what looks like containers, and then a roof put on top, and then behind is a huge place where they're putting up a fence around it. Wow. And then up the hill, right up on the top of the hill. I don't think that was damaged by the hurricane. I think it just didn't get finished. I'm saying goodbye to Charlestown and Grenada Island. Yeah, it's a nice little spot. Kind of laid back. Most of the rest of the island is controlled by some sort of development corporation. There's a few big fancy places up on the hills. Apparently a fancy resort around the corner here. Otherwise it's actually quite wild. It would have been nice to go for a walk, but oh my god, it's so hot. Even with the clouds, I couldn't face it. Down on the other side here is the airport. Strip built between that island and the main island. Fancy marina over there. After a tough upwind beat, 2 short tacks took me into a tight little anchorage behind an island called Savane. Oh, this is called Savane Island. There's Mustique in the background. I'm not going to go over there, it's private and too expensive. There are a little couple of buildings on the shore here. What look like thousands of conch shells. I think the locals must harvest them here. Otherwise just a barren little island. And I have it all to myself. There's a wreck of some sort of motorboat over there at the end. And a couple of rocks back here. The one at the back is called Savane Rock, and it is covered with birds. And there's Carriacou Island, where I was yesterday. Oh, it's pretty rolly in this anchorage. I'm sticking around this afternoon. So there's a big squall coming in. I just want to make sure everything's okay. But since it's rolly, I've set up my damper devices. I think they're mostly psychological, but they might help prevent an oscillation from getting out of control. One on the spinnaker pole and one out on the end of the boom. Prevent it out. Yeah, the buckets are small because my original buckets broke. So not nearly as effective. Well, the squalls never materialized, but also I wasn't able to go to shore. It's just too rough and rocks right on the edge, even with the kayak. And now tonight, sunset is behind us, but it's lighting up these clouds. Oh man, it's just gorgeous. Look at that. On the other hand, oh man, am I going to be in for a rough night? It's not clear. This is very reminiscent of a very isolated anchorage in the Hapai group in Tonga called Calafessia. There's reef on that side, there's island there, there's reef on this side. And hopefully we don't have what happened in Calafessia where the anchor shackle broke, but held just by the pin, stuck in the last link of chain. Oh well, I'm here all on my own. It's a gorgeous spot. We'll hope for a good night. This really was a tight anchorage with reef all around, and that night the wind briefly turned to the northwest and almost put us on the reef to the south. It's 5 a.m. I decided to leave the anchorage that I was at. It was just way too rolly at Southern Island at high tide at 3 a.m. and I think that's Venus up there. It was much brighter earlier when it was darker. But this is Mesquite Island over here. I'm not going to go there. It's way too expensive. They want $85 even if you just stay for one night. So instead, I'm going up here to Bequia, and maybe a little island called Il Quatre, just in front of it. We'll see. Yet again, there is a large bay on the protected southwest side of Bequia Island, providing yet another wonderfully protected and very popular anchorage. I've made it to Admiralty Bay in Bequia. And man, is it a busy place. Gosh, there are boats just coming and going constantly. I'll go quickly along the shore. That's the main town or village. It's called Port Elizabeth. I had to come here since Port Elizabeth is the city just near East London in South Africa. There's the whole coastline. There are boats all the way back behind me. I tried to anchor over in the shallow area over there on the left, but there's just, the sand is too thin and there's rocks, so I remembered that sometimes if you go a little bit further out, there's nice sand and no rocks, and sure enough, here we have clear sand. There is some seaweed, seagrass, and lots of turtles around, presumably eating it. But my holding seems to be very good. We've been here a while, and man, like you can hear now, it's blowing hard. Of course, it's annoying. It's blowing hard during the day, finally. Yet this is not a place that I can kite surf. The steady easterly trade wind blowing through Admiralty Bay left this neat, compact arc on my anchor alarm. The next day, I ventured into shore for lunch at this popular restaurant on the foreshore with a nice view of the shoreline, eating conch fritters, known here as lambi, for the first time, a little rubbery for my liking. There is a famous floating bar in the middle of the anchorage called Bar 1, which is where the picture of Chris Doyle and Jeff Fisher was taken, and although the bar was closed while I was there, I was able to recreate the picture. I counted over 100 boats in the bay and visited several of them, including this beautiful Swan 65 called Ilias that a young Dutch couple whose names I unfortunately forget had bought in Trinidad. And a South African couple named Christine and Rue treated me to dinner on their old fiberglass catamaran called Era that they do charters on B&B. This anchorage had the distinction of having at least 4 enterprising locals offering various services from their roving boats, primarily delivery of water, diesel, ice, and laundry. Wow, it's been a pretty rough bash today. Coming up to St. Vincent here, I'm not even going to lay Blue Lagoon, I'm going to have to tack and go up. Here's one of the inter-island ferries. This is one of the smaller ones. And very kindly he has avoided me, which is nice of him. They're doing a fair amount of rolling, but they must do this route over and over and over again. Not going to Bequia, must be going around the east side of Bequia as far as I can tell. Anyway, the birds love the updraft. See the boobies riding the updraft in front and on the side. The current between Bequia and St. Vincent was so strong running westwards that it took 3 long tacks taking 6 hours, even with the engine helping, to beat my way 8 miles north to Blue Lagoon, marina and mooring field on the southern tip of St. Vincent. And the entrance to this protected bay was really sketchy, involving a cut through the surrounding coral that was just 5.5 feet deep, so we made it through with 6 inches to spare under the keel. That afternoon, a class of youngsters sailed 6 dinghies around the lagoon. Got a bunch of adults and kids in these little boats. These ones in front, that's a topaz, but the one behind it's obviously a laser. The kid over here behind this boat, a red laser, he's pretty good. And then way up the top there's another topaz with an adult kid. There's the guy with the red laser. One more down here with a kid happily resting at the front. Unfortunately, my socializing in Bequia left me with a respiratory bug, so I was under the weather for 3 days, just hanging out on the mooring in this lagoon, doing small jobs on board. But on day 4, after breakfast of cakes, saltfish and plantain at the Marina restaurant, I felt good enough to attempt a minibus taxi and municipal bus trip, described in the guidebook here, up into the hills to a botanical garden called Montreal Gardens. It was a misty, rainy walk up a steep road to the gardens, which disappointingly turned out to be closed on account of the rain. So I walked back to the bus stop via a circular route, past several taro plots, as well as this mixed row planting that is applauded by entomologists for promoting natural pest control, and an abandoned greenhouse project sponsored by the European Union, which was now guarded by a cat with kittens, while goats kept the grass short. In the next episode, I make the 40-mile day sail further north, this time on the windward side of St. Vincent, to the next big island of St. Lucia.